Like, so I guess to kind of piggyback on that a little bit. So, like, generally, would you say like people have been more accepting of like both your bisexuality and kind of like both, I guess, within the family life as well as just on a general social space?
I think for the people that I have invited into my the understanding of my sexuality, they have been accepting. Like I said, I don't believe that everyone we know too much about some people sometimes, and I want to know. I need people to start knowing less about me, and so I don't believe that everybody has to know every part of me. And so I will, the people who I have shared those parts with me, such as like, my sister or some of my cousins, or my best friends, they completely love and accept me. For folks who I haven't told, I just feel like I don't want to share that part of you. You don't deserve it yet, is how I see it.
I mean, when it came to my own sexuality, I came out to my mom and she just nodded. But also, she continues to make some interesting comments about the queer spaces and the queer identity. So
Were they
it's,
more of like were they blatant or are they more so of like not understanding, would you say?
I would say, more of a compliment sandwich. So in
Okay.
Filipino culture, like you have like, oh, you're really pretty. Change this though, but you're still really pretty. But in Filipino culture, you have where you have a interesting time grappling with queer identities because they'll celebrate you in like on media. They'll say like, yes, queen, work, do all the things, oh, and all that. But behind the scenes, no, they'll still talk shit about you because they just don't understand or they don't want to understand. And I think that's what my mother and I have when it comes to my own sexuality. While she understands it, I don't know if she fully accepts it. And because I'm in a heterosexual, like, presenting relationship, I don't think she sees that it doesn't change if I'm in a heterosexual relationship or a homosexual relationship. So
Okay.
it's hard. It sucks. But at the same time, like I said, you'll find your chosen family regardless. And yeah.
So, like when I was researching, one thing I came across too, often assumptions that are made about those who identify as bisexual, for women, it's kind of looked at as more of like a experimental phase, and then for men, it's looked at as they're just flat out like gay, and it's it sounds like that's kind of like the experience that you had as well, where it's like since you're in a heterosexual relationship, they're kind of just looking at her as like, oh, okay, she's doing her thing, but ultimately she ended up with a man. Is that correct, like interpretation?
That's a pretty good interpretation. A lot of the time, I feel people see bisexuality as just a stepping stone to queer and to other queer identities.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it does hurt a lot, especially since it also invalidates me. It also invalidates how I see my partner and my own relationships with other people. So, I think like what it boils down to is you really need to have thick skin when it comes to people questioning you as an individual when it comes to your own identities, and also learning that they might just be blatantly oblivious of what is going on, or they just don't want to understand. So
And maybe it's similar for you as well, like in terms of like family and stuff.
No, I think because the people who I've shared with it in my family, my friends, are people who are, oh, I would also say there's like a generational difference. So, my sister is only 6 years older than me. And so she understands what I'm talking about and the difference of I like with sexuality and gender, and how they, interact with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my parents, I believe, don't have a clue. I have not explicitly told them. And my partner is actually the first person I've ever brought home. He was the first person who's like made it through. So they have only And when I did, I would say, as a serious partner, when I did was when I was dating in high school. Of course, they were, like I said, they were exclusively men anyway. And so my parents have only known me as a person who dates men. So I have not experienced, particularly from my family, any type of discrimination or weird, odd feelings or things like that. I would say in college, when I was exploring and and I had my first sexual experience with another woman, I would say, because 18 to 20 something year olds could be little shit still. And so bisexuality, particularly when it comes to women, is hypersexualized. And so it was oh, kiss her and da, 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 da. And I'm like, baby, I don't no.
I'm not here to perform for you.
Right. I was like, I'm not performing for you. And I would say that is where I would say that having to navigate that as a baby gay or something in that, or a baby queer in that time, was really hard. Yeah, because college kids can be shits.
And I think, Nikki, you really hit on the head, like, where you have to almost perform your sexuality just to be seen as your own sexuality, or your own, or how you feel in your soul, who you are. And it sucks, especially since there's still that notion of people who are bisexual. They have that way to hide their identity by being in a heterosexual relationship. So I think also it's a matter of just figuring out who really will accept you, and if they want to accept you, are you willing to have those conversations, those hard conversations of, this is how I define it. It might not look like this for other people. Have an open heart when it comes to them explaining their own labels, their own relationships, their own experiences, with an open heart.
One thing you kind of talked on, Mickey, was that like bi women have that oversexualization, like that kind of fantasy, like, oh, if you're in college, every girl's gonna experiment and like you can have a threesome. It's great, it's sexy, it's hot. Like, how has that kind of fetishization like contributed to either of your experiences as bi women, and like how has that kind of come up, and what did you do to like navigate around those experiences?
I was someone's apparent unicorn that they wanted, and if y'all know that term, yeah, because before I met my partner, I was on Tinder, and everyone knows Tinder is a shit show regardless. Yeah. So I put down that I was attracted to both male and female, because that was the options that Tinder puts on. So every time that I put down that I was bisexual, because I'm not going to be not open about my sexuality with someone. I'm going to tell them, like, yes, I like women, I like men, I like everyone. That is always going to be on the table. I'm going to be as open and honest about my relationships with people. So when I was swiping, there's a guy, and I thought, oh, you're cute, I'm gonna swipe on you. He then messages me and says, wow, you are a beautiful Asian woman. And I'm like, you had to point out that I was Asian. Okay, cool. And I politely said, thank you. And then he goes, my wife and I were looking for a partner. And I'm like, oh, nope. Hard pass, abort. So it's not only being fetishized as someone who likes all genders, but also it's being fetishized as someone who is Asian too. Because that whole Asian persuasion, I hate that term so much. And the fact that I am bisexual, it's like, it's a double whammy when it comes to just having those types of relationships and having that intimacy with other people. Because they're going to always assume, like, or someone's going to assume, like, I'm going to cheat on you because I am bisexual, or I'm going to be unfaithful to you because I find all people attracted. That's not the case. When I'm in a relationship, I'm locked in, loaded, let's go. I'm here for the ride.
Right. Okay. Mickey, what about you?
Yeah, I think Leia hit on such interesting points. Because of that intersection of race and sexual identity, and then gender identity on top. I think my experience was pretty similar in the sense of being a Black woman. We are both desexualized and hypersexualized. So I went to a predominantly white institution where being a Black woman on that campus, ain't nobody was trying to holler at you. All of the white men dated white women, and the Black men really wanted to mess with the white women. And there was just, it was it was a very interesting, well, not interesting, it was a very isolating time that, you know, I can only have some type of, you know, sexual intimacy or romantic intimacy when I went home to see, you know, partners from, you know, in the past. And so you walk a very odd space when you're both hypersexualized and desexualized. And I think that if I was a different person, that when, you know, the guys were telling me to kiss her, or, you know, I had one friend, well, he's not my friend, but he was my friend, but was very always pushing, like, you know, we were friends with benefits, but he would always kept pushing, like, you know, why don't you bring your girl, bring your home girl, or bring the girl you met? And I'm like, no, she don't want you. And so it's a very interesting, you have to be a very grounded person to be able to not get swayed by what is going to happen. Yeah. I would then also say that my in trying to, if you think about that, everything we do is a performance. Like, I don't know if y'all are familiar with performance studies, but, you know, pretty much everything we do is a performance. But I think about what makes sense, like, or not what makes sense. I'm not going to surround myself with people who make me feel like I'm a spectacle. And that is in terms of being a Black person. That is in terms of being a queer person. That's in terms of even being a bigger person, like being a person of size. Like, I will not surround myself or be in spaces in which I'm made to feel a spectacle. Now, sometimes you have control over that. So, you know, like Leia says, cultivating your tribe and making sure that the people around you are good people. And then there are other times that you don't have control of that, such as, you know, when being Black and walking around or being a bigger person and trying to fly in an airplane seat. Like, you know, sometimes you don't have the control of that. But which is why it is so important to be a grounded person. And part of grounding is really being able to surround yourself with good people.
Okay. Yeah, I agree, because I think that's the biggest thing too, is just trying to find that space where, you know, you could be your most authentic selves. And it seems like both of you have had that journey, like ever since you were younger all the way up until this point. So it's like, I commend you both for, you know, not giving into like societal pressures and continuing, you know, being the people that both Cody and I know and to care about and love. So we appreciate that as well.
You
So
know,
like
just out here doing my best. Thanks.
Doing our best, and that's all the world can ask of us. But kind of to hit on certain thing on like how Mickey said, not trying to be swayed. Like, I definitely was swayed by a pretty girl who wanted to bring someone else into a relationship, and just giving into that because it's like I wanted to please my partner, but it also hurt me inside, because then at that time she wanted a guy. And it's like, okay, cool, I can work with that. I just want to be with you. But that didn't work out. They kept on coupling and I felt invalidated. And at that point, it's like, did you even really wanted to be in a relationship with me? And that took a lot of time for me to really cope with the fact that maybe, or I was enough. It just wasn't enough for that person at that time. Right. So it was just a matter of figuring out like, okay, I don't have to perform for you. I can perform for myself in my own space at my own time. and still have people who still love me.
I like that because it allowed you to kind of like reinforce the value in yourself that you have that, others who do appreciate you are able to see. So it sucks that you had to go through that. But at the same time, sometimes those learning opportunities or those life lessons, they hurt, but we get so much from them at the end.
In the words of P. Diddy from the wonderful song of Damage by Danny Kane, sometimes you have to experience the pain to love the joys.
I like that. I was not expecting a P. Diddy quote. That's why I laughed. But it has some depth, so I like it.
Well, this season on the Cancel Podcast, we're bringing P. Diddy quotes. Boom. I also want to say thank you for both of you for like sharing all your stories and it's a pleasure to know both of you outside of this podcast, but it's also great to hear you both talk about this kind of experience, and especially for those of you who may be listening that are just kind of starting out your journey with this identity search. So I guess kind of the final question we have right now is have you always been so confident with this? Has it been like a journey for you? And if so, like, what would you say to someone who's on their journey or starting that journey right now?
I guess I can go first. No, I am an awkward individual. I am awkwardly confident through everything that I do. And that is a phrase that I will stand by forever, because I definitely wasn't the most confident when I was in high school, because there are so many people that are going to question you. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to say like, no, this is just a phase. No, you don't really think that. You're just going to figure out, you're going to figure out that you're going to be either this or this. It's okay. You're going to find, but also you're going to find people that will accept you and will want to watch you grow and want you discover and see and change. And that is totally fine. So was I confident? No. Am I confident now? Still no. But I'm still trying. And that's really all I would want for really anyone that's starting their journey in figuring out who they are as a person. And that's applicable for really anyone, especially since we're all just kind of figuring out what the fuck we want.
Truth. So true.
I would absolutely co-sign that. I think that we have this kind of idea that confidence is something that's stable, and it's not. It differs from day to day, and so I would say I was definitely not always confident, and I think that as I have tried to find my center and finding my center on being critical of the things that I've learned in the ways that I have learned them, and being okay with doing the very uncomfortable work of sitting with yourself and reflecting on what it is who is the person that you want to be, and that feels authentic to you, and being driven about going after that person, like after that ideal, and not caring what other people have to say. That is what now has made me feel better in who I am as a person. And I mean that for all of my identities we have to be critical of what we've learned, how we've learned it. And I would say for a person who is beginning this identity formation or identity reflection spaces, who's taking that journey, find your center, what it is, at your very core. If we had no labels, at your very core, who are you? If you wasn't someone's mother, son, daughter, if you had no labels, at your very core, who are you? What brings you joy? And then go after that, and do not let anybody deter you from your path.
I like that.
Look forth and prosper.
If I had to summarize it, to relate it back to Fairly Odd Parents, be your grayest, be your blobbiest. Be that person at the root. Oh, Cody disagrees, but it's the best I had.
Wait, is that the same episode where they have the joke where it's like, it's gray, tuh?
Yes, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
It is the same one. Oh,
Nikki, you and I are just like, okay, guys.
Yeah.
I'll send y'all some YouTube videos after this.
I love it because I really do love Fairly Odd Parents. until the baby came on. I was like, this whole poof thing, I ain't really with it.
Right?
Like, here's poof. And I was like, poof, I'm gone, bitch.
Exactly.
No, well, I want to say I appreciate all y'all for allocating the time today.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely learned a lot. I hope all the listeners and the viewers, they learned a lot. And especially for those beginning out on their journey, I think this is kind of like a good representation of what that evolution looks like, to go from that person who you both used to be to who you are now. So I appreciate you both too. And as well for Cody, like making the guest appearance as the host, since we are all a part of the UNLV Rebel family. I'm glad that we were able to kind of, bring everyone together, even though it's been a while in this crazy pandemic too. So to our viewers and our listeners, what are your thoughts on exploring bisexuality? Make sure to leave your comments below, subscribe to our channel, and for more content, be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, much love and peace.
Just got off the clock, just got on my chill. Called on my homie Brent to see what be the deal. What you trying to do? I'm just trying to heal. Hella floated, never bloated's what I'm trying to feel. Hop in the whip and just got off the clock, just got on my chill. Called on my homie Brent to see what be the deal. What you trying to do? I'm just trying to heal. Hella floated, never bloated's what I'm trying to feel. Hop in the whip and